Please remember to subscribe. It's just one click for you, but it helps me a lot creating new videos. Thank you. The US luck seems to be running out. Crumbling infrastructure, mass homelessness, unaffordable health insurance, massive personal debt, very little disposable income, and real estate stock bubble. 20 years after 9/11, the trends are clear. The US power declined slowly, but in the last 4 years, the ratio divided, and it is accelerating. We really don't know what is going to happen in the next 4 years. The outlook doesn't look good. With millions of struggling Americans trying to pay their rent, put food on the table, or pay any other number of bills, too many zombie companies dependent on the next stimulus bill to even keep the lights on. As tremors continue to be felt across America, and in particular Washington, D.C., as it emerged that the storming of Congress appeared to have been planned for weeks. We have seen these events in many countries around the world, most recently in Hong Kong and Ukraine, cheered on by the United States. So how will the U.S. administration deal with insurrection on their own soil? With security ramped up for the presidential inauguration next week and with Trump facing a second impeachment. The Frankenstein financial economic system they have created works fine, until it doesn't and completely collapses overnight. Since the repeal of Glass-Steagall in 1999, this country has exemplified the fraudulent image of being a free nation with equal opportunity. Instead, it has practiced cronyism, nepotism, and outright fraud in its true practice of, it's who you know, not what you know, if anyone wants to promote their business by getting government contracts. And you will not get any contract unless you pay through the back door to an offshore account to the individual responsible for awarding you the contract. A real and true third world approach to doing business in the good old USA. The US government did not care that the corporations, followed by almost every small business that could, deliberately betrayed and abandoned the American workers and left us with McJobs and part-time work only. Anyone that cannot understand the damage that greedy corporations and politicians have done to the workers who built these corporations in the first place are part of the pathetic reasons workers are in the mess we are facing in 2021. America's unyielding stupidity and arrogance have resulted in an irreversible slow death to America and our loyal lapdog countries. While China has passed us way too far to catch up with, we have given up the fight to make it to the end because the crooks and the enemies from within are planting hurdles in our ways. So the end of America has arrived. Babylon is falling down. The American experiment is falling apart at the seams. Nothing can put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. The slow disintegration is in progress. The only thing doing well in America is feudalism. Today the US is just a banana republic with unlimited credit. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit the notification bell. We've had raging price inflation for 20 years now. It's in asset prices, stocks, bonds, housing, education, taxes, and healthcare, stuff people need and have to buy. It is especially obvious in things where labor input is higher: trucking, warehouses, professional services, insurance, healthcare, etc. Just because it's not been in tech doodads, restaurant meals, and other stuff in the correct basket as an annoying irrelevancy, do those idiots really think that all their printed money just goes nowhere? The currencies get trashed. That's the dollar going down, not prices going up. Groceries are off the charts. The system is trying to starve us. Businesses are closing due to pandemic restrictions, people are unemployed, and they think raising the prices to quadruple what they were yesterday is somehow going to be acceptable to the average Joe. Get ready for more looting. What they mean is that all those raised prices were bid up by unpayable debt, which must default. But don't worry, as soon as the new administration gets in, everything will be free, and everyone gets to stay at home and have everything delivered by green solar-powered drones. People clearly have no idea of how the American financial system works. So, I'll keep it simple. America borrows money to fund its government. The people of America pay the interest on this money to fund their government. Every penny. So, it is not free money to anyone in America. This money has to be paid back. and it is deducted from our paychecks before we have a choice and demanded if not. So, Americans are not begging for anything that is free. Nothing is free in America, including freedom, liberty, and justice. And the people of America have spoken. If they can cough up billions to kill people, military budget, then they can cough up trillions to keep us alive, healthy, vibrant, and whatever else we want. It is our money, not their money. Our money. It's all about control. International bankers' debt-based currency system is now in the process of self-destructing. Their minions in government and financial society who think that currency is valuable in and of itself are totally clueless. They lend their support in return for poker chips soon to be worthless. The control they try to deliver the bankers is purely to let the bankers keep the assets they've accumulated from the issuance of unbacked debt while writing off their liabilities. Moreover, through the Great Reset, they hope to acquire your assets at zero cost to them in return for soon-to-be worthless poker chips. Here's how this fraud works. The Treasury writes sovereign debt, which is collateralized by your assets. The central banks book the sovereign debt as an asset. Then they create a liability entry equal to the face value of that debt. They provide the debt to cronies, primary dealers, BlackRock, et al., who receive zero-risk wealth in the form of fees for the service, which have magnified value due to the Cantillon effect. No currency is created to pay the interest. The government provides the currency to an army of contractors and cronies at inflated, often plainly fraudulent prices, in return for services, which are often wholly fictional, who live in locales close to the capital. Next, the government taxes you so they can pay interest on debt underwritten by your assets, which does not benefit you. As soon as the first debt payment is made, the bankers buy tangible assets with it. Before 2008 they rolled it into new loans at leverage equal to their maximum allowed fractional reserve ratio. But since 2008, they've known the scheme was done and have focused on buying all the assets. Because no currency was ever created to pay this interest, it means the balance of the debt, collateralized with your assets, is henceforth unpayable because there does not exist enough currency with which to pay it. So, the government issues new sovereign debt to pay the old sovereign debt, still collateralized with your assets and not issued for any benefit to you. This results in a compound interest rate on the debt secured by your assets. Today we are at the inflection point where the amount of new debts to create enough currency to make the old debts plus interest payable becomes essentially infinity. That is why it is collapsing. That is why each new issuance of new currency is a multiple of the one before, because the compound interest on the original debt is growing at an exponential rate as compared to the value of the collateral, due to compound interest as a result of multiple refinancings. The bankers have proposed you simply give your assets to them in return for a universal basic income that consists of more currency, backed by nothing, in return for permanent serfdom. It is nothing but a wealth transfer scheme from everyone who works to a tiny minority of bankers, government, and finance cronies. The structure of the debt fiat regime is identical to a Ponzi scheme. It requires infinite exponential growth to continue. I would submit that they've run out of assets they can book to keep the scheme going, and the Great Reset is their exit button. The consumer banking model extracts wealth from energy, resource, and goods-producing nations and transfers it to consumer banking nations. To that extent, it is a positive-sum game for the West. It cannot go on forever without infinite growth. And, we are now past peak oil. This assumes a zero-sum game. They are also extracting resources from the Third World by controlling pricing and thus adding wealth into the system. To the great detriment of and resentment from the Third World. It is a zero-sum game in the sense that the expansion of monetary units is at a vastly higher rate than the creation of new assets, and in fact inhibits the creation of new assets by systematically transferring wealth from the producers of those assets to political and corporate zombies and parasites. Given that currencies are relative. Every major country is printing money, so they are all garbage, and you can't crash against another currency if that currency is printing just as much. Eventually, all currencies will crash against gold, silver, and other hard assets. The Fed is effectively backstopping all of the debt issuances by the Treasury, monetizing the debt, aka helicopter money. I would keep an eye on gold, silver, and to a certain extent commodities. They will continue to move higher and will accelerate as monetary inflation, rampant money printing, reaches the end game. Look at it like stagflation on steroids. Low to no real economic growth, with rising prices. This will be tough to get one's head around, but it will happen. The box the Fed is in is if inflation, not just asset but CPI inflation, gets going, and they are unable to stop it since they can't ever raise rates again since debt levels at the government and corporate level have exploded over the past decade and show no signs of slowing. Once inflation gets embedded, it will be game over for the stock market since price-earnings multiples will get crushed as inflation ramps. The other thing is that the consensus is for no inflation or deflation. So the market isn't expecting this shift. It will surprise the majority of bullish talking heads. The can kicking will end at some point. The Fed is promoting inflation, and as it does, the inflation lifts the markets, for the markets know the Fed will do nothing about the inflation. In the meantime, the working families of this country will be ground down and pounded by this contrived inflation. The low price of oil is the only thing helping these fake numbers out. Have you been to the grocery store lately? 10% prices up easy this year. The mother of all crashes is on its way as rates climb and US dollar falls. Maybe finally someone will ask, who does the Fed serve?